remotely. I believe she's in Italy right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So our remote member is an expert on research on software startups. She also has a long experience in researching agile software development, and she's a very creative and energetic researcher, young researcher in the field. We had a chance to receive her about 2 months ago at the University of São Paulo. She gave a great course on Lean Startup. So thank you very much for participating remotely. After the presentation, in which Danielle will give the presentation, she will be the first to ask the questions. We also have here Paulo Lemos from Unicamp, coming from very far away, 80 kilometers. Thank you very much for your collaboration. Professor Guilherme Liblowski from FEA and Poly. I will tell about the three in the end. And Marcelo Nakagawa from INSPER and FIAP. And the three are great experts in innovation and startups and entrepreneurship. We are very lucky to have some of the three key researchers in the field in Brazil. Not only researchers, but also practitioners in the field in Brazil to help us not only doing this research, but now in the final defense. So it's a great pleasure to have such great 4 members in this thesis committee. This defense is a little different from what we are used for 2 reasons. First, because it's probably the first ever PhD defense here at Google's campus. It's the first time also that in our program, computer science program, we have defense outside of our institute building. So today we are extending our institute to be here. And thanks to the collaboration from Google Campus and also from Startup Farm that helped us in organizing the event today. Startup Farm has a long-term collaboration with our research group, so it's always nice to interact with them. This is the first reason why this event is different. The second reason is because the presentation from the candidates, the PhD candidates, won't be a traditional presentation because Daniel doesn't like to do very traditional things. It will be a dramatic presentation that I won't tell much about it because we will just attend it. So after the presentation, then we'll have the 5 members of the committee asking their questions and discussing the issues with the candidate. And then the committee will discuss a few minutes and the result will be announced. So thank you very much for coming. And so now Daniel has about 30 to 40 minutes to give his presentation. And what do I do with the microphone? I keep it?
Pode deixar lá.
Okay. So Daniel, the stage is yours.
Vai aparecer aqui o meu logo? Estamos aqui para mais uma apresentação da nossa, da sua TVE, Televisão Empreendedora, para
entrevistar o doutor que conseguiu esmiuçar o DNA das pré-nascidas startups, cujas mortes precoces têm entristecido demais seus pais biológicos. Startup, como o próprio nome indica, é o ato de começar algo, não é mesmo? Tem a ver com empresas que estão no início de suas atividades propondo algo novo. Vamos entrevistar, para o prazer dos nossos telespectadores, o Dr. Coquier, que nos esclarecerá sobre seus interessantes estudos. Você que é pai de uma nova ideia, cuide de seus rebentos e com ele abrace as novas descobertas da ciência em busca do sucesso. Boa tarde, Dr. Coquier. Agradecemos por nos conceder essa entrevista, conseguindo tempo em sua agenda para nos receber. Peço-lhe a gentileza de dividir com o público o resultado de suas pesquisas.
Boa tarde, senhorita.
Daniela.
Daniela? Mas veja só que coincidência. Meu nome é Daniel. Espero que meu assunto não seja demasiado árido, pois lindos ouvidos só deveriam ouvir música e poesia. Bom dia ao público desta emissora.
Peço-lhe a gentileza de direcionar as câmeras.
Ah, tá bom.
Tem ali, tem ali.
Ok. Bom dia ao público desta emissora. É um prazer estar aqui. Veja, quando uma startup nasce, apesar de todas as boas intenções com que foi concebida, nada pode, infelizmente, garantir que conseguirá sobreviver. Porém, se estudarmos o seu DNA, eis que já teremos algumas das costumeiras, já podemos prevenir algumas das costumeiras doenças típicas da sua vida.
Qual foi o motivo que fez o senhor se interessar por esta área de pesquisa?
Eu fui picado pelo mosquito do empreendedorismo e fiquei doente. Foi para entender essa patologia que eu me tornei um médico de ecossistemas.
Não acredito. Me conte mais, por favor.
Na minha fase de empreendedor, eu conheci outros empreendedores que, como eu, eram movidos pela paixão. Então, enfrentei muitas dificuldades e notei depois que eram comuns a todos nós. Então, eu decidi compartilhar esse aprendizado com os outros. Primeiramente, eu identifiquei uma série de padrões, que são
Só para esclarecer o nosso público, padrões seriam...
Então, um padrão é uma solução de um problema num determinado contexto com uma solução. Esclareço, porém, que um padrão não está inventando nada de novo. Um padrão está apenas documentando um conhecimento que provém de uma experiência prática observada e registrada numa estrutura bem definida. É como transformar conhecimento tácito em conhecimento explícito, entendeu? Pois é, assim, quando surge um problema e conhecemos uma solução para esse problema num contexto semelhante, justamente identificado por um padrão, usamos essa solução.
Mas desse jeito fica tudo muito fácil. Atenção, meu caro público. A nossa TV Empreendedora vai agora apresentar ótimos conselhos aos novos empreendedores, pois vou pedir um exemplo prático ao nosso caro doutor.
Bem, é um pouquinho mais complicado do que isso, mas eu vou dar um exemplo. Veja aqui. Aqui está um quadro com todos os padrões que eu cataloguei. Como podem ver, cada um deles tem um nome. Então, por exemplo, o padrão network. O que ele fala? Ele fala sobre as redes de relacionamento que o empreendedor deve criar. Ou, por exemplo, o padrão Find Your Mentors, encontre seus mentores, que é um padrão para que o empreendedor procure pessoas para se juntar à sua rede. Então é um padrão que está conectado com o padrão redes, né? Mas é um outro padrão que fala sobre os mentores das startups. Todos esses padrões, juntos, eles formam o que a gente chama de uma linguagem de padrões.
E ninguém tinha pensado nisso antes?
Claro que sim, é que até agora ninguém tinha catalogado isso dessa forma didática.
Teria algum conselho a dar aos novos empreendedores?
Tenho, claro, tem um conselho que é um dos padrões, por exemplo. Veja só, peça ajuda para as metodologias. Use as metodologias já existentes para não perder tempo cometendo erros óbvios. Seguir as melhores práticas e não reinventar a roda.
A não ser, obviamente, que alguém invente uma roda inovadora.
Essa é a doença do empreendedor.
E essa doença tem cura?
Olhando para esse quadro, vemos alguns padrões são mais ligados com questões humanas e outros com questões mais técnicas. Além disso, há padrões que devem ser aplicados em momentos diferentes do desenvolvimento da startup.
E esse aqui que fala em dinheiro?
Esse aqui. Esse padrão aqui, ele fala sobre maneiras criativas de evitar custos desnecessários. Muito bem, a startup no começo ela não tem receita. Então, os custos precisam ser baixos. Se você pode trabalhar de casa, para que gastar dinheiro com o escritório? Precisa fazer uma reunião? Use o espaço do Google Campus. Precisa comprar um móvel? Sei lá, compre no leilão, pela metade do preço. Eu mesmo montei um escritório inteiro com R$ 1.500. E olha, meu sócio está aí para comprovar, viu? 1.300. E isso só depois de trabalhar 1 ano de casa.
Eu estava lá. Ai, muito obrigada, doutor, em nome de todos os nossos telespectadores, por sua clara e interessante explicação. Agora, voltando à sua carreira médica...
Quando falamos de nascimento, seja de uma criança ou de uma startup, nunca podemos esquecer que estamos falando de uma célula que faz parte de um sistema complexo, composto de várias outras células que interagem umas com as outras. Assim como numa floresta, onde cada célula, cada animal é uma célula da floresta.
O senhor tem um modo encantador de explicar as coisas.
Imagina, tá me deixando encabulada, senhorita, dando-me mais mérito do que mereço. Foi na biologia que o pesquisador Arthur Tansley criou em 1935 o conceito de ecossistema, mostrando a importância das trocas entre os organismos e o meio ambiente. Existe inclusive um livro que compara o mundo das startups com as florestas tropicais. Deveria ler, é muito interessante. Pois é, eu não sou eu, portanto, o único a ter se interessado pelo assunto. Né? Eu desenvolvi uma técnica para diagnosticar a evolução do ambiente onde nascem e se desenvolvem as startups, o que chamamos de ecossistemas de startups.
Quer dizer que o senhor pode acompanhar esse tal ecossistema desde o nascimento até que ele se torne um adulto autossustentável.
Exatamente. E nesse ecossistema eu identifiquei 4 fases de desenvolvimento. Fase 1, o nascimento. Fase 2, o desenvolvimento. Fase 3, maturidade. E fase 4, autossustentabilidade. Em cada fase estamos, obviamente, falando de diferentes níveis de maturidade. Um ecossistema ele pode levar anos para se desenvolver e chegar até a fase 4. E, eventualmente, ele pode morrer prematuramente.
Como um pediatra acompanhando uma criança desde o seu nascimento.
A senhorita é realmente muito perspicaz. Assim como na natureza, cada ecossistema é único e exige cuidados especiais. Crianças e adultos são diferentes na conduta, porém, existe algo em comum: o corpo. Pensa numa criança. Ela possui coração, possui aparelho digestório, aparelho respiratório, enfim, todas as partes que um corpo adulto possui, porém num nível diferente de desenvolvimento.
E essas partes em comum?
Ao todo são 7 partes. Vamos dizer assim. Primeiro, o empreendedor e sua startup, em primeiro lugar. Ele está no centro de tudo. Segundo, é preciso considerar a influência de todos os meios de educação. Ou será que preferimos ficar lascando pedra, né? Terceiro, e não menos importante, são as fontes de financiamento. Sem dinheiro. Depois, temos que analisar a sociedade e a cultura, que sem dúvida influem muito na vida do ecossistema. Em sexto lugar, eu colocaria a legislação. Legislação tudo tem que ser conforme as leis, óbvio. E por fim, considerar que há organizações e empresas que já existem nesse ecossistema.
É só isso ou tem mais alguma coisa?
Tem sim. Ainda há subdivisões. Por exemplo, sociedade e cultura são divididas na língua, a mídia, os eventos, a família, os status geopolítico, enfim, tudo isso influi tremendamente no desenvolvimento e sobrevivência de uma startup. Mas será que o assunto já não está ficando um pouco técnico demais, senhorita?
Não, tenho certeza que nosso público está muito interessado no senhor. Eu até fiquei surpresa em saber que tudo isso poderia ser controlado.
Veja bem, uma pequena ressalva, eu não disse controlado, não é controlar. Compreender o ecossistema é uma tarefa muito difícil até para um especialista. É um sistema vivo, complexo, com várias partes. cada uma com sua função própria. Até agora que eu saiba, ninguém conseguiu controlar o ecossistema. Nem com caixa 2.
Eu peço desculpas, fui descuidada na minha observação. Eu quis dizer analisado.
Essa análise é o objeto dos meus estudos. O que sabemos é que o ecossistema funciona muito melhor se todas as partes interagirem de forma harmoniosa umas com as outras.
Que coisa mais interessante. Eu tenho certeza que o nosso público está muito interessado. Mas como foi que o senhor descobriu tudo isso? Deve ter dado um trabalhão.
Bem, não foi de uma hora para outra. Eu entrevistei 34 pessoas em Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv, 41 pessoas em São Paulo, 25 pessoas em Nova York. Falei com CEOs, CTOs, pessoas das universidades, incubadoras, mais de 100 pessoas. Com esse material, eu comecei a elaborar um mapa da situação de forma gradual. O mapa ele foi surgindo na medida em que a gente foi entrevistando as pessoas. Os elementos que fazem parte do ecossistema foram aparecendo conforme a gente conversava. Então, a universidade, as incubadoras, o mercado. Conversando com os entrevistados, eu fui descobrindo esses elementos. Não só os elementos, mas a maneira como eles estão interagindo uns com os outros. Eu também participei de vários workshops com especialista, reuni todas essas informações. Eu usei duas metodologias. Uma que chama Grounded Theory, ou Teoria Fundamentada em Dados, e uma outra que é o Estudo de Casos Múltiplos, que são técnicas bem comuns em pesquisas qualitativas desse tipo. Nada é aleatório, inventado, tudo tem que ser comprovado.
Nossa, mas que quadro complicado e que cabeça sua. Poderia dar um exemplo prático aos nossos telespectadores?
Eu creio que se trata de um assunto meramente técnico, senhorita Daniela. O importante para o telespectador, veja, é saber que eu estou agora colocando à disposição dos interessados uma metodologia para fazer exames específicos e avaliar o estado de saúde do paciente ecossistema, o que permite fazer um diagnóstico correto e escolher o melhor tratamento.
Desse jeito fica tudo muito facilitado. Que pena que meu noivo não conheceu o senhor.
Noivo?
Ex-noivo. Ele teve uma ideia de montar uma startup, uma hamburgueria com os amigos.
Hamburgueria? Hamburgueria não é startup.
Não?
Startup é uma empresa que cresce e se desenvolve muito rápido, com um modelo de negócio escalável, como, sei lá, o 99 Táxi, que todo mundo usa, ou o Elo 7, que as pessoas revolucionou o mercado de artesanato, ou sei lá, a PlayX, que está revolucionando o mercado da música. Agora, hamburgueria...
Vai ver que é por isso que não deu certo. E eu nunca mais vi o sujeito. Mas o senhor estava falando das pesquisas?
O ponto central é a mente empreendedora, pois é nela que nascem as ideias, não numa hamburgueria. O empreendedor é o líder que cria as startups, que são uma extensão da mente criadora deles. Isso não depende de mim, nem da ciência. Por outro lado, empreendedor e startup sozinhos não são o todo. Eles fazem parte do tal ecossistema que eu analisei. Assim como o corpo precisa de vários sistemas para funcionar, o ecossistema também tem seus próprios subsistemas, como eu falei. A sociedade, a cultura, o mercado, a estrutura legal, os investidores. Tudo isso pode e deve ser equacionado e analisado para a saúde de todos.
Já estamos, obviamente, familiarizados com o termo ecologia, mas ecossistema é novo,
Tecnicidade, senhorita, apenas isso. De fato, antes de 2010, veja nesse gráfico, era raro encontrar o termo ecossistema na literatura, mas depois ele foi se tornando familiar, embora bem depois de Arthur Tansley ter inventado o termo na biologia. Fique claro, porém, que eu não entendo de cada uma dessas partes. Eu sou mais uma espécie de clínico geral, né? É o todo que me interessa. Peço-lhe desculpas, senhorita, mas o relógio nunca para. Sou obrigado a deixá-la ir, pois tenho agora uma reunião com outros ecossistemas que eu estou avaliando.
Só posso agradecer o tempo generoso que nos dedicou. As pesquisas do Dr. Cuquier abrem novas possibilidades para o crescimento do Brasil. E com isso, despedimos-nos da sua televisão empreendedora TVE. Boa noite, estimado público, e até amanhã no mesmo horário. Que pena que já acabou. Gostaria que ele enviasse uma cópia da entrevista? Aliás, faço questão de lhe trazer pessoalmente. O meu amor tem um jeito manso que é só seu e que me deixa louca. Quando me beija a boca, minha pele toda fica arrepiada e me beija com calma e fundo até minha alma se sentir beijada. Ai, o meu amor tem um jeito manso que é só seu, que rouba os meus sentidos e abre os meus ouvidos. Depois fica comigo.
Como foram os negócios para você esse ano?
Muito bom, muito bom. Eu não sei por que vocês estão tão preocupados. Estão com uma aparência ótima. Vocês já têm milhares de startups com perfeita saúde. São gigantes perto de mim.
Mas acontece que as suas empresas têm principalmente clientes estrangeiros internacionais. Não dá para comparar com as minhas, que são voltadas apenas para o mercado interno.
Nós não podemos nos queixar pela quantidade de startups com fundadores técnicos que temos. Somos mais de 80%. Estamos num ótimo patamar, não?
Não digo, sem dúvida. Mas acontece que... O que acontece com as tuas?
Eu invisto 4,2% do meu PIB.
4,2% ele investe em tecnologia, 4,2% do produto interno bruto. Eu só invisto 2,7%. Quem é maior, então?
Mas sob esse ponto de vista, eu, que só posso investir 1,6% do meu PIB, o que eu faço? Declaro a minha insignificância?
Não, que é isso? Você tem muitas oportunidades a serem exploradas ainda. Seu PIB é o quê? 430 bilhões de dólares? Não mais de R$1 trilhão? Está reclamando de barriga cheia.
É fácil falar para quem já esteve em segundo lugar no ranking de ecossistemas.
Bom, se é para falar em números absolutos, então, eu tenho muito mais startup do que você. Eu tenho umas 9 mil. E também tenho o maior número de fundadoras mulheres. Agora, se queremos falar em percentual e densidade, este aqui passa a perna em todos nós. Porque você tem uma startup para cada 1.000 habitantes.
E esses 9 mil?
9 mil? 9 mil. Isso é fácil para você dizer, porque, afinal, os seus Estados Unidos foram fundados 50 anos antes dos meus Estados Unidos do Brasil.
Não, isso não é desculpa. Meu Israel tem menos de 70 anos de fundação. Nós estamos dando baile em vocês.
Ok, mas então, a essa altura, qual a dica?
Mas é por isso que estamos aqui esperando o médico brasileiro dar o diagnóstico, que por sinal está atrasado, que por aqui horário é mero wishful thinking.
Nossa, costumamos ter esse problema.
Olá, senhores. Vai, tudo bem? Tudo bem? Sentem, acomode-se, senhores. Fiquem à vontade, fiquem à
Está
vontade.
na cara que o senhor teve algum problema, por favor?
Desculpem o atraso, mas foi por uma boa causa, viu?
Sim. Tá na cara, o imprevisto foi uma boa causa. Um pouquinho aqui.
Bom, vamos
Caiu com a cara no
finalmente,
chão.
porque mal nem está Ismar.
Vamos? Bom, vamos lá, direto ao assunto, deixa eu ligar aqui meu sistema.
Finalmente.
Seu coordenador, por favor, obrigado. Bom, antes de mostrar os resultados para os senhores de cada exame, gostaria de explicar alguns detalhes técnicos, tá? Então acessem o link aqui que eu vou mandar para vocês. Só um segundinho. Perceberam?
Uhum.
Bom, minha pesquisa foi realizada em 3 fases e cada fase serviu de base para a próxima. Veja no gráfico. Fase 1. Fase 1, eu analisei os componentes e fatores que caracterizam os ecossistemas dos senhores, relativo aos agentes envolvidos e as relações entre eles. Usei uma técnica chamada teoria fundamentada em dados, grounded theory, que é uma técnica de pesquisa usada, é um método interativo para gerar teorias. Muito bem, essa fase foi realizada em Tel Aviv. Na fase 2, que é o corpo, eu testei melhor o mapa da fase 1 e elaborei um modelo de maturidade que analisa o processo de desenvolvimento, o processo evolutivo dos ecossistemas, ou seja, como as coisas mudam ao longo do tempo. Essa fase eu realizei aqui em São Paulo. A fase 3 me serviu para tirar a prova dos 9. Isso é, validar o modelo criado na fase 2. Então, é a cabeça. Essa fase eu realizei em Nova York. Ops, desculpa, não é isso.
Eu não recebi essa foto no meu arquivo.
Eu salvei.
Portanto, resumindo, o estudo de caso foi um processo de pesquisa formal, com observação detalhada do desenvolvimento dos ecossistemas ao longo de um período de tempo. Outra técnica que eu usei é chamada de estudo de casos múltiplos, que é uma técnica que permite analisar entidades de pesquisas complexas, chegando a modelos mais confiáveis e ricos.
Agradeço pelos esclarecimentos, acho que em nome de todos nós, não é? Creio, porém, se não estou errada, que há diferenças fundamentais entre nós três.
Obviamente, os senhores estão em diferentes níveis de desenvolvimento. Portanto, há exames que são mais adequados para cada um de vocês. Por exemplo, para um paciente que acaba de nascer, eu fico mais de olho nas seguintes métricas: o empreendedorismo nas universidades, a cultura e os valores empreendedores, eventos sobre o tema empreendedorismo. Por exemplo, já para um paciente autossustentável, a gente olha mais para as estratégias de saída, investimento anjo, a presença de mídia especializada, presença de dados e pesquisas sobre o próprio ecossistema e a existência de pelo menos 3 gerações empreendedoras.
Doutor, tudo isso faz muito sentido para mim, mas eu gostaria de saber um pouco mais sobre os critérios utilizados na avaliação.
Sim, os critérios. Cada exame recebe 3 notas. Legal esse seu celuláriozinho com anteninha. Último tipo. Bom, 3 níveis de maturidade. 3 notas. Cada exame recebe 3 notas. Nível 1, nível 2, nível 3. Por exemplo, no critério número de startups, se você tiver 200 startups, menos de 200 startups para cada 1 milhão de habitantes, estaria no nível 1. Se estiver entre 200 e 1.000 startups, está no nível 2. Se tiver mais do que 1.000 startups para cada 1 milhão de habitantes, está no nível 3.
Então, eu já estou no nível 3. God Save America!
Eu também já estou lá.
Bom, eu estou no nível 2, mas tudo bem, vocês cuidem-se, porque eu chego lá.
E os exames são divididos em 2 grupos. 10 exames essenciais, que estão marcados aqui em amarelo, e 12 exames complementares.
Isso parece ótimo. Está bom para vocês?
Tá ok.
Muito bom.
Bom,
Então vamos aos resultados, finalmente.
sobre o senhor, tá vivo? Os seus exames, deixa eu ver aqui, estão ótimos. Olha, tudo nota 3 nos exames essenciais e 8 dos seus exames complementares também com nota 3. Portanto, o senhor já atingiu o nível 4 de maturidade. O senhor é autossustentável. Parabéns.
Obrigado.
Mantenha a alimentação saudável, continue praticando esportes e daqui em diante o senhor precisará apenas de check-ups periódicos a nível de manutenção. Muito bem. Ah, mas porém esse exame aqui, olha, burocracia, não está muito legal como eu gostaria não. Olha, 34 dias para abrir uma empresa é muito tempo.
Bastante.
Sua mídia especializada também não está legal. Ah, e presta atenção nas metodologias, que você não está usando direito, não.
No último ranking de 2017, você caiu para o 6º lugar. Eu, modestamente, fui para o 2º. Quer dizer, Silicon Valley, só você está na minha frente.
Mas está vivo e está com ótimas notas.
O que você entende disso? Você caiu para fora do ranking.
Senhores, o ranking é apenas uma referência, não deem tanta
É uma
importância.
referência.
É marketing. Sobre o senhor, Nick, veja aqui. O seu ecossistema nasceu na década de 90, olhando para esse gráfico, que é um gráfico sobre investimentos em startups. Então, em mais ou menos na década de 2000, teve os primeiros casos de sucesso, chegando ao nível 2 de maturidade. Parece que a crise financeira em 2009 teve um papel fundamental no seu desenvolvimento.
Lógico, muitos profissionais que perderam o emprego no campo financeiro foram fundar suas próprias startups. As mulheres, então, se fala...
Chegou no nível de maturidade M3 em 2010, 2011 e atingiu o M4 em 2015.
Bom, parabéns para mim.
Então, embora os senhores dois, quero dizer, estejam no mesmo nível, os seus exames complementares estão um pouco melhores do que o de Davi. Por exemplo, em burocracia, o senhor já tem nota 3.
Ah, então está conseguindo facilitar os trâmites. Nós estamos tentando
Meu
ainda.
caro, a viagem dos nossos antepassados naquele navio lá, o Mayflower, nos ensinou a sermos práticos para sobreviver. Não somos como vocês que ficaram 40 anos andando pelo deserto, procurando não sei o quê. Se é para fazer, nós já estamos fazendo. As mulheres, então, fazem até antes.
Olha, sobre o senhor.
Eu?
Não, o senhor agora.
Eu sou mulher.
Senhor Sampa. Senhor Sampa está no nível 2 de desenvolvimento. Olhando os seus exames, presta atenção aqui. Veja que está com nota 2 nos exames essenciais. Então já atingiu o nível 2 de maturidade, porém ainda não atingiu o nível 3 de maturidade. Falta-lhe disseminar a cultura empreendedora, principalmente a tecnológica. Então eu sugiro ao senhor o seguinte: crie mais eventos sobre o tema, 4 a 5 vezes por semana. Tudo bem? Mais cursos de empreendedorismo nas universidades, um de dia, um de noite. Praticar mais compartilhamentos de casos de sucesso. Está anotando aí?
Sim, sim.
Eu noto que o seu ecossistema é um alto risco para empreender, por causa das leis trabalhistas e tributárias. Eu receito-lhe o seguinte remédio: criar políticas tributárias diferenciadas para startups, diminuir o tempo de abertura e fechamento de empresas e aumentar os incentivos financeiros de agências de fomento e investimento privado.
Puxa vida, eu achando que eu estava numa boa. Então o senhor quer dizer que eu sozinho tenho que pegar o Brasil, colocar nas costas e levar até o país do futuro?
Veja, meu caro Sam, talvez o senhor esteja tentando fazer tudo sozinho, mas deixe-me lhe dar um conselho. Será muito mais efetivo se o senhor estudar os casos de sucesso e fizer conexões, sem imitar os casos de sucesso. Encontre sua própria identidade. Nick e Taviv tiveram mais recursos, mas ainda dá tempo de o senhor correr atrás do tempo perdido. Olha, empreender não é fácil. Dói. Dói bastante. Mas, na medida que você aprende a lidar com essa dor, tudo fica bom. Em sua homenagem, eu vou compartilhar um momento da minha própria trajetória empreendedora.
Sou homenageado. Vocês não.
Vou cantar uma música. Eu vou montar um negócio, já pensei na ideia. Sou programador, tenho uma amiga designer, registrei um domínio, contratei servidor. É um momento novo na minha vida de trabalhador. Chega de ser empregado, o que eu quero agora é ser empreendedor, empreendedor.
esperto, fiquei rico, sou esperto, já virei o mentor. Falo as besteiras pro povo e eles ouvem e acreditam que eu sou seu salvador. Mas eu sou só um ser humano, salvando a si mesmo, entendendo a dor. Porque empreender é uma arte, tentando faz parte a sorte e o amor. Empreendedor, empreendedor, o que eu quero agora é ser empreendedor. Empreendedor, empreendedor, o que eu quero agora é ser empreendedor. Todo mundo. Empreendedor, empreendedor, o que eu quero agora é ser empreendedor. Mais uma vez. Empreendedor, empreendedor, o que eu quero agora é ser empreendedor.
Agora que os senhores foram avaliados, agora é a minha vez de ser avaliado.
Boa sorte.
Obrigado.
Microfone para mim?
Pode pegar o sem fio. Qualquer um.
Hello. So now let's connect to the internet, and I'd like to.
Vamos ficar aqui enquanto ela está falando lá? É melhor.
Okay. Yes.
Senão a gente vai ficar de costas para a dama, não é legal.
So now we start the formal questioning part, in which the members of the committee will have a chance to ask their questions, request clarification about the thesis that Danielle wrote. And we'll start with Xiaofang Guan, professor from the University of Evolução, and Danielle is going to connect. We are using Skype. Is Skyping to Xiaofang. And hopefully in a few seconds we'll have Xiao on the line. So we are trying to connect to Xiao. She was watching the video, and she, of course, she read it thesis before.
Hi, Xiao.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Okay.
So can you hear us also?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for participating. It's always a pleasure to interact with you and know your great ideas. But now we'd like to know, we'd like you to question about Danielle's thesis.
Okay. Yeah, I would say if it's about theater or art and music, I think that you already passed the exam. Okay. So I hope you can hear me clearly.
It just we can hear, but it's not 100%. So please speak slowly.
Speak slowly and closer to the mic.
Close to the mic and slowly. Then it will work.
Okay. How about now?
Great, better, yes.
Okay. encourage you because I think you did really a good thesis. And I enjoyed your show, and I enjoyed reading your thesis. And I see great contribution from your thesis, both to practice and research. Okay, but I have to make some tough questions anyway. And the first question I have is about the patterns you presented in chapter 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It made a great read, really, and I can react a lot to what you said there to the early stage startups, and it made great sense. My question is, what's the research behind it? Can you elaborate a little bit how you arrived in this pattern?
Okay, the pattern community is me and Fabio, we are part of a community that, especially the software patterns community, that for a long time we've been working with patterns. So the patterns, we get into them by experience, by noticing that some things repeat from different observations. So I could say that it was from my own experience and from experience of the other entrepreneurs that I talked with during my whole life. So it's something that emerged. As I said, the pattern is not something that you create, you just identify them and document in a way that is easy to apply. So they are, you identify the context, so part of the patterns were identified during my experience in my last startup, but also in the startups that I run before PlayX, which I'm running right now. So it's something that is observed and documented.
I think you should talk about the prompts of.
Yeah, we have a conference. So all the patterns that I have in this thesis, they were workshopped with other. We have a conference called POP, which is a pattern language of programming, and we have a writers workshop that we present the patterns, and we have feedback from different academic people that also work with patterns, that understand the format, and they give us feedback. So we first started with an article with three patterns, then we wrote another 3 patterns, and then the last 3 patterns, so we have 9 patterns. And we are planning to evolve the language, because we believe there are other patterns that were not included in this thesis, but they could be included to the catalog to form a broad set of experience.
Thanks. And how these patterns contribute to the conceptual framework and maturity model you built later on?
So actually, as I believe that this was as part of the ecosystem. So I'm an entrepreneur, not only an academic. So writing the patterns was a way for me to include a more real-life experience inside the following sessions that I had in the thesis. So I start with the patterns just to give a little bit of context of what is the life of an entrepreneur, what are the problems that he faces, and everything that goes after, comes after, is the landscape where the entrepreneur is inside. So it's another point of view of the ecosystem. So it's a point of view of the startup inside the startup, without. So some patterns talk about finding your mentors or know the methodologies. So because if you need to understand the methodologies, you need to go to be part of an accelerator, or maybe you need to be part of a university, learn in school. So everything that is
underlying the patterns is included in the model that we observed later. But these two things were done simultaneously, so one was contributing to the other during the last years when we were doing the ecosystem research.
Okay. You showed also during your show this picture, the patterns, the arrangement of patterns, right? And these patterns, are they only applying to early stage startup, or they applying also to the startups at scaling and established?
Yeah, this the most part of the patterns are applied to early stage, but some of them, yeah, we have difference in the graph. We have these. I can come back here.
Okay.
So we have patterns that are more related with the early stage, and others that are more properly applied when the startups are scaling and established. So you can see in the graph that yes, you're right. Most of the patterns are more focused on the early stage and middle stage startup. So we could maybe include later in the language other patterns that are more related with late stage startups.
Okay. Fabio, can I ask, do I finish all my questions? Oh, I alternate with other members.
No, you finish all your questions, if you can.
Oh, okay. And how long do I have? Just to, not to...
Well, you're free, but more, I would say additional 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Good. Let's talk about a little bit, because you are taking the, the doctorate of research, so let's talk about research methods a little bit. Okay. And you said you use the grounded theory. So what's the rationale using grounded theory? Because in your literature review, you did show the previous work on ecosystems. So basically, you can build on top of them rather than going with all, like the blank page in the field in the first place. So can you elaborate a little bit your choice of grounded theory and how that link to multiple case studies?
Okay, so we started with grounded theory because grounded theory is a good methodology to create theories. So we wanted to not be biased by the existing models in the beginning. So we started just running the grounded theory prescriptions. So we actually Fabio was the one who started the interviews in Tel Aviv. And when he finished the interviews, we started to analyze data, to collect, to listen to the interviews, to code them, and identifying the elements inside the ecosystem. And then just after this moment, we decided we thought it was a little bit mature model. Then we went to the literature to find other aspects that we didn't found in the first observation. And then we noticed that we didn't have everything mapped in the first iteration. So we decided to create another iteration to exactly try to map the missing parts of it. So the first model wasn't complete based on there was a lot of insights, a lot of new things, but not complete. So we created the same, and we wanted to kind of validate the things that we discovered in the first iteration, and also maybe discover other new insights about things that maybe we missed in the first station in Tel Aviv. So we started to, and we chose for two reasons, São Paulo. One reason was that we wanted to try an ecosystem that was completely different from Tel Aviv, trying to map different realities. Especially we understood that São Paulo was not in the stage that Tel Aviv is in terms of evolution, and in this moment we realized that it could be interesting to create a maturity model for the evolution of the ecosystems. So during our second observation in São Paulo, we in my exam for the qualification exam, we talked with Paulo and Ari, and Ari gave us a kind of an insight about trying to model the things, how they evolve over time. So we started to create the maturity model, and this is the reason why we needed another iteration, because we created the model with São Paulo and Tel Aviv iteration, and we wanted to validate the model. So we went to New York and trying to find other elements that to validate not the model, the framework of ecosystems, but now the maturity model that we created in the second stage when we were working in São Paulo. So this is the reason why we choose the case study.
Okay. You know, in growth theory, one key concept is when you know that you stop searching the new cases or the new interviews is that you reach saturation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you understand what saturation mean to you in this case?
Yeah, so during the process in New York, we started to see that we didn't have anything new. In the first interviews, we had a lot of new insights, and after the middle or the past 60% of the interviews, we started to listen to the same thing again. So nothing new to the model, nothing new to the research. So we believed that we reached the point. Then and then not only that, but also we did 3 workshops. One there in Bolzano, one or two actually, 2 workshops in Bolzano. But the second one was the workshop that we learned from the experts there, and we included other elements in the model while we were still doing some interviews in New York. So we believe that we reached the point that we don't have anything new. Maybe in 10 or 20 years, maybe we'll have to revisit the model, trying to find new things. But yeah, this is future research. I think the model can be is very robust, but it can be revisited every maybe 5 or 10 years to include new things that we learn again, because things change. So it's reasonable to think about something that can change also.
Yeah, I'll try to apply it to evaluate the ecosystems here in Europe.
Yes, definitely. This is one of the real objectives of our research, is try to apply this model to other ecosystems more and more, and maybe we will have some surprises and try to find new things. Yes.
Okay. I have a couple questions also on the models, the maturity models. You call it, for example, both the conceptual model and the maturity model. You call them software startup ecosystem models. But are they applicable to any startup? ecosystems, not necessarily software startup ecosystems?
I believe that part of it can be, yes, can be applicable to not only software startups, but since we focused our everything that we did from the beginning, we talked with many people from software startups, so we didn't have a lot of interactions with other startups. And we believe that this is one reason why maybe it should be created another research with maybe other kind of startups to understand. And the other is the proper definition of startups, which says that you need to have a scalable model, a business model. So usually you can reach that with software, sometimes with hardware, but almost all the time you have some kind of software running on this hardware. So it's very difficult to find something today that is not software based, that is scalable and reach the whole world without any element of software. So in some sense, you will always have software in it. So that's why we and also because we are in a computer science department, we consider that we have a lot of experience with software, so we prefer to include the software in the name. But I don't know, maybe can be removed, can be only startup ecosystem, yeah. Because startup is software, and software maybe goes together.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, you built the maturity model based on these three ecosystems you studied, right?
Yes.
And somehow you defined stages, maturity levels, also based on what happened to these three startup ecosystems.
Correct.
And at a given moment in your thesis, you mentioned these are three successful ecosystems.
Okay.
So I wonder if you
Maybe
choose another less successful startup ecosystem, would that change your maturity model, the stages?
I need to. Maybe there was some small in term the words maybe I didn't choose correctly. When I say successful, we say it was successful until now, until the phase that it is. So São Paulo is a successful. Can we think about success? We have startups, we have some success startups, we have a nice ecosystem here, growing, still on phase 2, but we need to maybe I need to define what is the concept of success. Maybe I should be a little bit clear, or at least remove the term success, or alive maybe is the right word for that.
Okay, so basically you can take the model and classify any ecosystem in one of the stages.
Yeah, I believe this is possible, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, my last question, so that I give time to other examiners. So do you think it is linear, the evolution of startup ecosystems, as they have to go through from nascent to evolving to maturity?
I think I don't know what you mean by linear, but you can see, for example, in the graph, New York graph, that grows exponentially. So it's not linear in terms of numbers. If you see that the criterion, most of them are kind of exponential. So that to be in the third level, you need to be really, really big in terms of different numbers. So some criterion it's linear in the sense that we put level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but doesn't mean you take maybe 2 years to get to level 2, but maybe you need another 10 years to get to level 3 and another 20 years to get to level 4. So it depends on the ecosystem. I think it's more reasonable to create this scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we could create level 1, level 3, level 10, level 100. I don't know, but it could be more confused to. It's kind of, but it's a logarithmic scale securely, because yes, level 4 is another level of it's exponential. It's just the numbers that are linear, but the growth is exponential. Yeah, maybe we should make this more clear in the text.
Okay, thank you. I still have lots of questions, but we can probably once take it offline and discuss. I think it's really you did very interesting work.
Okay. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you.
Fabio, want to?
Yeah. So if you have notes that you made in the PDF or in another file, please share with us. Danielle will have a chance to make small changes for the final version that will be the ultimate version of the thesis. So if you have a few suggestions, we can incorporate in the final version. And now,
okay, I will compile my notes and send you a document.
Great.
All my comments.
Great. And also, of course, I think it would be very nice for Danielle to write a journal paper on this, so your feedback would be very valuable.
Sure.
Okay, so now let's go to the other members of the committee. If you can stay
Yeah,
on.
I think it's better for you to go back to the streaming.
Okay.
Okay, and if you want to send anything, you can write here in Skype. We can. I'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need to interrupt us, just type on Skype and we'll.
Okay, so.
And then I will need a secret meeting of the thesis committee after all the members speak, so we'll need you again, okay? Thanks. So now let's go to the next member. That's the most far away. So if you would like to come here. So after Italy, the most far away is Campinas. So thank you very much for Professor Pablo Lemos.
Ok? Ok? Onde que eu posso sentar aqui? Pode sentar aí. Eu pego a cadeira aqui.
Todo mundo está ouvindo? Dá para ouvir bem?
Tá. Tá gravando, né? É melhor falar no microfone.
Tá gravando? Não tá gravando?
É melhor falar no microfone.
Tem um outro.
Você gravou essa pecinha antes, não gravou?
Passando na essa universitária.
Então, por favor, Professor Pablo Lemos.
Okay. Hello. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Falicon for inviting me to be part of this evaluation process as a member of the judging committee. I remember that when Professor Kohn made me the formal invitation, he asked me if I would attend an oral defense session that would not be so conventional. I think that we are certainly witnessing an oral defense session that may be called unconventional. But more than that, we can call it a little bit subversive, in the best sense of the word, which is the one that opens the possibilities for knowledge to be shared in a more creative way. Which also opens sentiments and feelings, so to speak, more exciting than the traditional oral sessions of doctoral defense. 2 years ago, I had the privilege of participating in the qualifying exam of the thesis, when I also had the pleasure of sharing the responsibilities of that occasion with Professor Blonsky, who is with me now in the more complex task of evaluating the current version of the final thesis. So I'm very pleased that Professor Kohn has kept my name for the thesis oral defense session, which may be assigned. There is a fault in this. No? Okay. Retorno aqui não tá bom. Which may be a sign that my participation was valuable, or that Professor Kohn is giving a second chance. In short, it's an honor for me to be a part of this evaluation committee for Daniel's doctoral thesis. First and most obvious is that these 2 years since the qualifying exam were not in vain for either Daniel and Professor Kohn. The work that has been developed since the qualifying exam clearly demonstrates that hard and consistent work has been done. But without further delay, let's go to my argumentation, to my comments. My comments are structured as follows. In the first part, I will develop comments in a more broader scope, combined with more specific comments, okay? In the second, I will ask Daniel some direct questions. And finally, I will propose a specific activity for Daniel, along with a more collective activity, share with the members of the evaluation committee, to produce a collective work. And at the end of my participation, I hope to also be able to contribute to the unconventional side of this event. Okay. The first part, general and specific comments. I think the first one is it's a comment related to the concept of co-evolution. I believe that the paper might have paid more attention to the concept of co-evolution, which in my view is one of the key elements, if not the most important element, to understand the dynamics of an ecosystem. Co-evolution relates basically to the interaction between the ecosystem as a whole and the components of this ecosystem. Besides the parts of an ecosystem presenting patterns of competition, cooperation, and complementarity, it also presents a more complex pattern of interaction, which can be named co-evolution. For biology, it is the individual units and ecosystem environment that evolve, thus creating patterns of interaction between individuals and the environment. That is, the whole ecosystem evolves together. Thus, organisms of an ecosystem do not evolve motivated solely by adaptation to the environment or as results of change that select the most apt to survive. Individual organisms evolve mainly relating to one another and interacting with the environment in an associated and interactive way, which makes the behavior of the components of an ecosystem based on mutual and circular influences and causations, not necessarily unidirectional, defining a process called coevolution. In the same manner, it's an example. Established companies and startups today interact much more through a process of coevolution than through a process of competition. This recent process of coevolution is so important that even changed the business models of the accelerators. For example, we have a recent study for Nesta. Nesta is a think tank of UK ecosystem specialized in innovation and entrepreneurship issues. Hello? It's better?
Yes, better.
Okay. I'm talking about the example of a recent study of Nesta. Nesta is a think tank of UK ecosystem. Present the fact that the business model of accelerators has also changed. In previous studies, they saw that accelerators usually take equity in startups, but we now find this is much less common than previously reported. The reason of this change is the increasing presence of corporate accelerators in the ecosystems. Second point that I would like to comment is the question of the target audience to whom the thesis is addressed. Okay. I also noticed the lack of a greater emphasis on the importance that the thesis can represent for the main stakeholders of an ecosystem. Okay, and thesis is frequently cited. The term stakeholders is a very important, a very new vision about ecosystems models. Another important comment that I would like to suggest to speak to you is about the area of knowledge in which the paper is most focused. I believe that your thesis, Daniel, is closely linked to a new vision of managing entrepreneurship activities. Just as innovation activities require innovation management tools, entrepreneurship activities require new entrepreneurship management tools too. So I think that the thesis can be included in the field of governance of entrepreneurship ecosystems studies. This is a new field of study because the idea and the practice related to governance is very interesting for the comprehension of the ecosystems as a management tool, okay? Like we use the concept and practice of governance to understand the behavior of companies and organizations, okay? Another topic that I would like to mention is about the methodological issue that you developed in the thesis. In your work, Daniel, you used a true classic in the area of case studies methodology. That is the work of Robert Ian, and along with the work of grounded theory that you mentioned in your first answer to the questions. These are two of the most frequently used sources for the research methodology in social sciences, okay? But I believe that the thesis could have explored more extensively and more intensively one of the most important concepts and practices developed by Ian, and that most studies of multiple cases do not explore properly, I think. This is the concept of analytical generalization. Okay? This is the concept that we work very well. As the experiments, the case studies therefore do not represent a sample whose results would be generalizable to a population, statistical generalization. The researcher does not seek representatives for a population that you want to generalize the results, but from a particular set of results, it can generate theoretical propositions which would apply to other contexts, okay? This methodological instrument is called analytical generalization. Analytical generalization is therefore a generalization in contrast to the sample statistical generalization. This is a concept that could be incorporated in more detail in your thesis, because the multiple case studies methodology is very much linked to the generalization process related to the 3 cases considered to build the ecosystem maturity model of your thesis. Okay? It is well fitted to its generalization process, since in the thesis the 2 samples of ecosystems are intentional, unlike random samples. So the thesis could have a balance and a complement to the off-cited methodology of grounded theory, since the analytical generalization is also a way to build and discover and construct new theories, okay? Which is one of the intention of the thesis in my understanding. Thus, I think it's worth exploring this methodological aspect further, okay? Another topic is just a topic about related to the work of Schumpeter. Please do not confuse the reader more with the already confusing concept of startups when you talk about Schumpeter. Schumpeter does not use startups in his theorization, okay? There is a lot of confusion and misunderstanding around the term startup, and if the thesis suggests that the luminary of innovation and entrepreneurship studies like Schumpeter used the term, this can put more wood in the fire of the controversy surrounds the definition and the concept of startup. Just a comment related to this confused situation, okay? My direct questions in the second part, I will focus, just a moment please. The first question is about the increasing importance and power of established companies in ecosystems. We are seeing a growing interaction of established companies with the entrepreneurship ecosystems. An example of this force and power is the creation of hubs like Cubo in São Paulo, created by companies or groups like Itaú and Banca. So the specific question is, please, if you can take notes, do you see any danger in a very strong process of institutionalization of entrepreneurship with the solid presence of established companies, causing the startups to lose part of their creativity, freedom, and become more boxed in, okay, by entrepreneurship that interests the great companies? You mentioned things like this kind of freedom, this kind of creativity related to the startups, the software startups in your thesis. This is the first question. The next question has to do with the need to update and permanently adjust the methodology of the model. What do you think about this? Because ecosystems are living, breathing, and dynamic systems, and may even have elements of disruption. Okay?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
What are the procedures for updating the model methodology? Okay, this is my more specific. Because of the ecosystems are living, breathing, and dynamic. This is a question. Another question is related to the concept, the main concept of co-evolution. Okay? Do you see any possibility of creating a metric specifically to understand the dynamics of ecosystems, which contemplates the concept of coevolution as we discussed earlier? This is a question that combines the metrics with the concept of coevolution, okay? I think that these are the questions. Oh, just a moment, please. Just a moment. Oh, just one more topic that I would like to consider is I noticed the lack of a contextualization of the ecosystem approach to innovation and entrepreneurship in comparison to other similar approaches, such as approach to innovation clusters, innovation habitats, triple helix, among others, okay? I believe that brief contextualization is essential in your thesis, especially to reinforce the importance that the new ecosystem approach is taking on in entrepreneurship and innovation studies. This is very important to me. Okay, and the third part of my comments, considering the quality of the thesis, in this third part, I would like to suggest that Daniel publish the thesis in book format, printed and digital, and that a second book may be published addressing the theme of entrepreneurship ecosystem in a comparative perspective, okay? Inviting those interested to take part in the project, and including the members of this committee, okay? And I would like to celebrate these two proposals. I would like to play and sing a song.
Okay.
Okay?
Then can you help me? You are the artist.
Consegue fazer isso? Aqui? Você quer sentar? Não quer sentar? Não, pode sentar. Você tem que sentar.
Vai um pouquinho mais pra lá, a câmera tá pegando ali?
Tá.
Tá?
Oh, I would like some.
Eduardo Mônica?
Eu não sabia, viu? Essa é uma surpresa.
Alô?
Faroeste Caboclo?
Faroeste Caboclo.
Faroeste
Caboclo pedida.
Poderia ser boa,
Ok,
professor Marcelo.
Faroeste Caboclo. Twice.
Duas vezes.
Não sei se eu acho que pega no assunto.
Vamos ouvir aí?
Tropeçavas nos astros desastrada, quase não tínhamos livros em casa e a cidade não tinha livraria. Mas os livros que em nossa vida entraram são como a radiação de um corpo negro, apontando para a expansão do universo, pois a frase, o conceito, o enredo, o verso, e sem dúvida, sobretudo o verso, é o que pode lançar mundos no mundo. Tropeçavas nos astros desastrada, sem saber que a aventura e a desventura dessa estrada que vai do nada ao nada são os livros e o luar contra a cultura. Os livros são objetos transcendentes podemos amá-los do amor tátil que botamos aos maços de cigarros. Domá-los, cultivá-los em aquários, em instantes gaiolas, em fogueiras, ou lançá-los pra fora das janelas. Talvez isso nos livre de lançarmos, ou que é muito pior por odiarmos, podemos simplesmente escrever encher de várias palavras, muitas páginas e de mais confusão as prateleiras. Tropeçavas nos astros desastrada, mas pra mim foste a estrela entre as estrelas. Tropeçavas nos astros desastrada, quase não tínhamos livros em casa e a cidade não tinha livraria. Mas os livros que em nossa vida entraram são como a radiação de um corpo negro, apontando para a expansão do universo. Pois a frase, o conceito, o enredo, o verso, e sem dúvida, sobretudo o verso, é o que pode lançar mundos no mundo. Tropeçava nos astros desastrada, sem saber que a aventura e a desventura dessa estrada que vai do nada ao nada são livros de luar contra a cultura. São objetos transcendentes, mas podemos amá-los do amor tátil que botamos aos maços de cigarros. Domá-los, cultivá-los em aquários, em instantes gaiolas, em fogueiras, ou lançá-los pra fora das janelas. Talvez isso nos livre de lançarmos, ou que é muito pior por odiarmos, podemos simplesmente escrever encher de vãs palavras, muitas páginas e de mais confusão as prateleiras. Tropeçavas nos astros desastrada, mas pra mim foste a estrela entre as estrelas.
Now Daniel needs to answer the questions. You don't need to answer the song. The song is by Caetano Veloso. Is it called
Danger.
Book? Livro? What's the name of the song?
Livros.
Livros, books.
Danger in institutionalization. Yes, I think is a danger. In our can you hear? It's yes. In our model, we put the entrepreneur in the center, and this is for purpose, because we agree with the Bradfeld model, and that the ecosystem is run by entrepreneurs, led by entrepreneurs, and everything will keep going while entrepreneurs are engaged in that. And entrepreneurs, by definition, are people that want to be free. They want to do whatever they want to change things. And institutions, they are important. They need to be there, but not controlling the things, but only for support. So it's the entrepreneurs alone. He can't do much, of course, but the institutions, you can't institutionalize the entrepreneurship. You can create institutions to give support to the freedom of the entrepreneurs. So this is the first question. Procedures for updating the model. Yeah, I didn't thought about it. I think we need to think about it. But as I told to the first question for Xiao question, I believe that the model is fluid, is changing over time. So what we could propose a revisit in maybe some years from now, and I don't know exactly how what procedure we should do, but one thing that I think about it that is possible is running the trying to fit the model in other ecosystems, as we propose in the thesis. So run the same evaluation, interview other entrepreneurs in other ecosystems, and other students, other researchers can continue this strategy, and then we create maybe a committee or a group of people that can visit the model and try to update it every maybe 2 years, 4 years. I don't know. I think this is something that definitely we could set up right now, kind of 2 years event to try to join people and collect other material from other ecosystems and try to update it. And metric for coevolution, yes. In the beginning of our work, I talked with Fabio that one thing that I believed was very important to measure, in some way, try to measure the level of interconnectivity within an ecosystem, and we didn't have time to create this. One thing that I thought about it was to use online APIs, like for example LinkedIn or other online social networks that you have some kind of data about people, and in some way try to measure how many people are connected and how much they are connected in many levels. So if you have, for example, so using big data and public APIs, maybe we could create a metric of connectivity inside an ecosystem. So this is one idea that we have. We didn't actually implement it, but this is one thing that I thought about it before. I don't know what we need to. This is further research, because yes, I agree with you that it's something that is very important. The connectivity within the ecosystem is one of the most important things, because without connections we don't do anything.
Just I think you must go more deep in the concept of co-evolution. I think it's very, very good way to help you in this.
Yes.
In this, because the concept is not cited in your thesis.
Yeah. Okay. There was any other question? No, two. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Paul was a member of the qualifying exam committee, and he already gave good, valuable feedback at that time, and now even more valuable feedback, and will hopefully incorporate in the final version of the thesis. Marcelo Nakagawa from Inspira, please, now your time.
And you don't need to sing anything.
Okay, I will not sing anything. So, thank you, Professor Kohn, and thank you for Danielle and Daniela and all for the show and the presentation too. I didn't write an essay like Professor Polemos, just take notes here. Just draft notes here. Danielle, first, I think that you have to change the definition of what a startup is, because it's a very tricky definition. When you say a startup can be defined as a temporary organization in search of a scalable and repeatable and profitable business model. In search means that it's a phase. When you find a repeatable, scalable, profitable business model, you are not a startup. You are a company, right? So, if you say that Eloset is a successful startup, it must be the best. When Eloset was trying to find, I think it did a profitable business model, because Eloset had a scalable and a repeatable business model since the beginning?
No.
They didn't change because it was a marketplace.
No, they changed it.
But it was a marketplace.
It was a marketplace, but not scalable, because they didn't charge from the sellings.
Okay, but when they started to be a startup?
I think, yeah, this is a great question.
That's the tricky.
Yeah.
If you say that everything is a startup, so, and you say that startup is in a temporary organization in search of, for example, Uber is not a startup anymore. They have a business model, a defined business model. So,
Yes, but their business model is being challenged. So
Yeah.
they are still trying to be, for example, Spotify. Spotify has a business model.
but in case of this thesis, if you define it as a startup, every example of a startup, you have to prove that it's a startup. So
Okay.
that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's very tricky. It's very good for entrepreneurs because they can change this model every time. So, but when you have a scientific article and you are defining a phenomenon, a specific phenomenon, it's very hard to define that it is a startup or it's not a startup.
Okay.
Because this verb in search of.
Okay.
So that's the first suggestion. The second suggestion is to explain why not Recife, why not Florianópolis, Porto Alegre, Shenzhen, why you select São Paulo, Tel Aviv, and New York. So just to explain.
Okay.
The other suggestion is to include other definition, like in Portuguese it's APL, Arranjo Produtivo Local, cluster and hub, because specifically cluster or APL, we have lots of research. So we have APL of software in many countries. So it was an ecosystem. So you have to explain that you analyze, including APL, APL, cluster and hub. What else here? You said that you adopted two scientific methods. One is ground theory, and the second is a multiple case study. So you mentioned Robert Ian. Robert Ian is the father of case study. But the mother of the multiple case study is Kathleen Eisenhardt. Kathleen Eisenhardt is the god and the mother of the multiple case study approach. So, in the page 2, you defined a startup ecosystem as a limited region within 50 kilometers. But the distance between San Jose and San Francisco is 77 kilometers.
Yeah, or 1 hour traveling. It's one or the other.
You spend 1 hour and 10 or 1 hour and 20 minutes to go to San Jose to San Francisco.
Without traffic, yes.
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 Without traffic.
Yes. Yes.
And you didn't explain why you selected this definition. You have to mention the reference. Why you selected this standard? This
is not. There is no reference. This is our definition.
Yeah.
We created it.
So you have to mention this.
Okay.
Because you are adopting a definition, a startup ecosystem, that other researchers have wrote about it. So, and in the page 7, you said that although startups exist in many different industries, we focus this question catalog on startup whose main product and revenue streams are based on software. That's another tricky question. What is software? Because 2 decades ago, you know what software. But now you have, for example, software as a service. Eloset is a software-based company or not?
Yes.
So that's the question, because in the IBGE, probably Eloset is a retail company. So it's not a software company.
No, it is a software company.
It's a software company?
Yes.
So
Internet in the name.
yeah, because
Internet.
when you talk about, for example, hardware company is a software company or not? So you have to define what software means to you. So
Yes. Okay.
what else?
The same, in some way related with the first.
According to Fabicon, software is what else here? I missed many references. For example, in the page 21, you explain that HP was founded by Bill Hewlett and David Parker. And who is the reference for this information?
Okay.
But there are lots
I
of.
think this was in the patterns session, correct? It was a short story for the patterns.
But you have to say because you said here.
No, just remembering where it is.
Yeah. Okay. What else? We study ecosystem. Ecosystem is a term from the biology, and you didn't take advantage of this approach. You didn't mention, for example, how Charles Darwin find out this connection between creatures and the environments. How he defined ecosystem for the first time. So I miss this connection to the biology.
Okay.
What else? And finally, in the results and discussion, I missed it. I missed the role of cases of inspiration, because I remember of Endeavor since the beginning here in Brazil, and one of the key contribution of Endeavor is to have entrepreneurs that work as a role model for new ones. So if you go to Silicon Valley, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they work as a role model for new ones. So I missed this.
Yeah, in some way it's related with the generations. In one of the criteria is the number of generations in the ecosystem, but maybe it could be more clear the case successive.
Yeah, it's because it has a kind of Me Too effect. If you know, so someone was able to found a successful startup, I can also.
Yes, no, definitely, it is very important.
That's my suggestions.
Thank you.
But I love this presentation. It's very, very inspiring and funny too. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelo. Lots of good suggestions that we will work hard to incorporate in the final version. And now, Professor Guilherme Ali Ponsky, thank you very much for being here. And this user question, Daniel.
Well, anyhow, thank you very much to you, Fabio, and to Daniel. In Portuguese, we say
por ser reincidente, né? Invite me again. Pleasure to be again with dear Paulo. I cannot agree more with the issues that you mentioned about eco-evolution. And Marcelo is a young, old friend.
Young?
Young, old friend. Young in age and in energy, but old in terms of number of years, and I love him so much. And Professor Wang, pleasure to know you for the moment virtually. Hopefully at some time next time you come, or any other opportunity personally. I now understand why you chose not to have this event at our campus, because we are, probably most of us come from the biblical tradition. And the biblical tradition has in the fourth book of Moses, chapter 16, a very interesting history where a group, the Hebrew people at the time, did something not quite according to the patterns, to the protocol, headed by a gentleman called Korah in Hebrew, I think it's Korah or Korah in Portuguese, rebelled, or not really rebelled, but made something really not according to what the high priest defined, or was defined for the high priest to do. Proposed some different thing. And the result was, that's how it's written there, a hole opened in the place there, and Korah and his whole group were sunk into the earth. So I imagine that you were a bit afraid that if you would do it in Ciudad Universitaria as a campus, that a hole would open and all of us, including you, would be sunk into the earth. But here we are higher in the Paulista, it's not so close to the river, we have more geological stability, and so I think you did it right. Another point is that I would like to know where we, at least myself, can pay cover artístico, because it's worthwhile. So please, Daniel or Fábio, onde a gente paga cover artístico que merecido. Seriously, I mean, it's very interesting because what you mentioned since the beginning of your product, I'll give a thought about that in a minute. The name of the product is really doing something totally different, including the way to deliver. So it was really very beautiful and unforgettable. So very nice. Usually, I would go according to what Professor Paulo said, going from the general to the specific, but I must begin with something specific, which is, because it's on your cover, and you mentioned that you are presenting a thesis. According to everything that I am used to see, to read, and I went again to some mechanism called Google, I don't know why, what you are presenting to us is not a thesis, it's a dissertation. Thesis is the product of a master, and a doctoral product is called dissertation. Unless you have some different approach, like in the US here, you drive on one side of the street, in the UK you drive on the other. But usually we call it...
both terms are used. Both terms are used.
Yeah, but I would say that mostly you have that, and I can give you a whole speech that I got here. Why one is called dissertation and why one is called thesis, but it caught my attention. It's not usual, at least. It's not usual. But anyhow, you decide. So sorry for beginning with something very specific, but I couldn't not notice that. I don't know if you want to comment about that, it's fine. It's
okay. Do study.
No, let's do it.
No, I've seen in the US, even in the US, I've seen both. There are universities that talk about PhD thesis, and there are, normally you say PhD thesis and doctoral dissertation. I've seen these two expressions very often.
Whatever, anyhow, always learning. I think Daniel said it was very useful also to hear the explanations that you made at the beginning, how you got to it. And I must compliment you because you are, let's say, ambidextrous, because you are both a practitioner and a researcher. And it's not easy, and you say it also in terms of time. I think it deserves a special compliment. You're not a full-time PhD student that anyhow has to come to a dissertation or thesis or whatever you want to call it, but you really are doing two jobs, and surely the other job you're doing as well as. And as I'm the last one, obviously several points were already touched by my predecessors, so I'll do more or less, let's say, according to some pages, things that caught my attention. A general point, just to begin with, is what both Paulo and Marcelo mentioned, which is exploring the organic aspect of an ecosystem. It means all of us, including myself, obviously we have what we call these views profissionais or vieses profissionais, professional bias or professional ways of thinking. So when you put patterns, it's the way that you develop naturally because you're dealing with software. However, when you enter, and both my colleagues mentioned, just want to stress it, when you enter an area which is the area of ecosystems, you are talking about organisms. And organisms have different behavior. They don't have patterns. Sometimes you have a pattern, but some specific, very small part of the ecosystem, something happens, and it can be disaster. In health, it's called cancer. So you have billions of cells, but for some reason in the division, one cell gets crazy, and unfortunately, the patient might die. So it is a different, and I'm not a specialist either. I'm a chemical engineer by training, I did mathematics, so I just know from seeing, from reading, that it's a different way of thinking. And I believe that the colleagues already mentioned, again, I just want to stress that in future papers, books, reflections, whatever, I think you would benefit from some immersion in this world of organisms, how they work, what we know about them, what we don't know about them, because this model of ecosystems tries to provide a frame of thinking that is more encompassing, more, let's say, adequate probably to what we're talking than the more mechanicistic models that we had before, where you can draw some squares or some rectangles and make connections, because this shows kind of a picture, but how does this dynamic happen? So this is a general comment. And if I may just make a comment on this comment, some footnote, in your picture where you describe an ecosystem, and in your presentation, and in your model, and I'm happy that you were able to use and to benefit from the idea of a maturity model, however people discuss about the merit of the model, but I think you evolved very well in this aspect. But even in your picture, I think in your model, I think what you stressed is the strengths of the elements of the ecosystem. If we have good universities, if we have good venture capitalists, if we have etc., and this is important. However, in all models that try to propose of how to increase innovation in a society, beginning with the old Sabatus triangle model from the 60s, what has been stressed always is that the actors are important, but equally important are the connections and the convergence. And so just for a comparison, we are doing, interesting what Paul mentioned, but we are just finishing, we finished now in March, but really was rewriting the report and the guide, work for the São Paulo public health system and open innovation. Together with Nesta, by the way, which are very good. But so we did a study on the innovation. It's not the entrepreneurship innovation, but it's the innovation ecosystem of the state of São Paulo. We tried to do it, and obviously, as it's open innovation, startup, etc., whatever definition, and Marcelo also mentioned, appeared. But what we found out is that you cannot explain what is happening or is not happening and should happen if you don't have another type of, a specific type of actor called connectors. Which obviously you can say, sometimes there are organizations, sometimes there are parts of organization, like TTO, sometimes there are specific organizations, sometimes there are platforms where different groups meet. For instance, you have, let's say, Conselho Estadual, State Council for Science, Technology, Innovation and Health, where you have people from university, research institutes, industry, government, etc. So if you don't have, even in the models the way you described it, if you don't have a box to focus on the connectors, I think you are missing something important for the dynamic of the system. So this is more general. Now, some more specific points. I don't want to bother being so conventional, but so I'm saying the pages. In some cases, you might not even open the page, but in some cases, you might want to open the page. Now, I go to page 29, but you say, at some point you say 29. You see, it's 29 because you have the number of the page and then you have the number of the page in the what's the name, in the PDF, of the PDF, and then you have the number of the page of the document, which are not the same. But anyway, but basically, you mentioned that the university offers to the ecosystem knowledge. It is true, but I believe that, what I see, and I hope you agree, that the university doesn't only offer to the startup, to the entrepreneurs, which have to be in the center, as you mentioned, knowledge, but they offer something very important, which is connections. So I think the idea that the university produces knowledge and offers knowledge is, I would say, rather conventional in two senses. One, because it offers other things, offers credibility, offers, obviously, offers connections, etc. But also, you have the university is not the only source of knowledge that happens. As my colleague Paulo Sadiva from the Institute of What Study says, NASA did a study and found out that there is intelligence outside of the universities. It was a surprise, but there is also some intelligence outside of the university. So I think university offers knowledge is kind of the basic statement, but does not, on one hand, include what university offers, and on the other hand, implicitly excludes other sources of knowledge. Now, about a little bit about your three countries. Well, I felt very well because I was born in São Paulo, teacher here, live here, most part of the year. My wife is North American from New York, so part of the time I'm there. And we too live part of the time in Israel, so I was kind of feeling very much at home. I mean, I'm not the only crazy one that goes to three places. Okay, but if I now make some comments, specific comment about Israel. Now, you mentioned all the time Tel Aviv. You know that there is a rivalry like São Paulo Rio between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and I'm Jerusalem. So please, it might be just a reflection on this rivalry, but I think not only for the issue of the size of the country, which is very small, as you know, but you mentioned Tel Aviv, but you also mentioned since the beginning Haifa, when you mentioned Professor Shlomo Maital and the Technion. But there's also a very interesting and very rapidly evolving entrepreneurship innovation ecosystem in Jerusalem, and has been planned, JVC, etc. And one concrete result was recently Mobileye. Mobileye was founded by Professor Amnon Shashua, professor of computer science from Hebrew University, benefited from the local in this very sense of entrepreneurship ecosystem in Jerusalem, and is the highest exit $15 billion. So I would say, again, don't take me only as a rivalry. Obviously, the rivalry is always present. But I think, I know that the rankings compass present Tel Aviv, but I think as you are doing, let's say, an ecosystem study and not only making something more simple like which city are we talking about, I think, okay, you can even mention Tel Aviv, but it's something which has to do not with the specific Tel Aviv ecosystem, but with the Israel broader ecosystem. So this is what I don't know if you want to comment, please go ahead. I'm just talking, but you enter and then I'm not.
Yeah, actually, Israel has very particular reality because none of other countries are so small as Israel. So, yeah, because the country is so small, maybe it's just one ecosystem, and the definition maybe we should adapt to it. But it's very difficult because if we change the definition, then Campinas is part of São Paulo or is not. So it's challenging to try to find what is the ecosystem. So maybe there is no there's no borders because ecosystems interact with their neighbors. So yeah, we try to create a border, but sometimes it's virtual. This border doesn't exist.
Okay, anyway, just mentioning to you, Marcelo already mentioned you have to define why 1 hour or 50 kilometers, because the distance between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv is 55 kilometers, which is, okay, 10%, give or take.
So it's the same ecosystem.
It's the same, and if you take, what's the name, if you take Haifa to Tel Aviv, you take the train, it's an hour or two, or even less sometimes, and if you go from I don't know, from Santana to Butantan, it takes 2 hours in good days, so what it is. Anyhow, by the way, what you mentioned, I saw once in the AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce, a leaflet trying to attract investors from Jundiaí. and saying that's the best place to invest in terms of knowledge and the logistics is Jundiaí, because it has 2 universities, Unicamp and USP, 2 airports, Viracopos and Guarulhos, international airports, and so on and so forth. So, okay, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. Not wrong. Anyhow. Now, about São Paulo, which is the second one, at some points I was in doubt if you were talking about the city of São Paulo or the state of São Paulo, because on one hand, you were talking about the city, evidently. But on the other hand, in your statistics, when you mentioned USP, you mentioned some numbers that are not USP São Paulo, or USP. For instance, you have 7 incubators at USP, or 7 incubators. Okay, if you count Super, Ribeirão Preto, and I don't know what in Piracicaba, etc., yes, but if you have USP in São Paulo, you have 1, maximum 2 if you count USP Leste. So I think, again, for the issue of precision, if you decide to put in a city, that will be precise. Okay. New York, I was very interested because it's true, I have been following New York since 1990, when I met a gentleman called Henry Etzkovitz, and he lived in New York at the time, now he lives in Palo Alto. And his wife at the time, also not his wife anymore, but his wife at the time opened a startup in New York, and it was kind of something exotic because New York was really other type of business. And at the time, there was the first attempt to create some small ecosystem more prone for entrepreneurs, and it was called Silicon Alley. Like Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley. And I didn't follow, obviously, all the years, but because I go to New York, because of my wife, I more or less you follow. And it's true, and I was very, again, impressed to find out what you wrote, that it really evolved so rapidly, and you put it also as an issue or as a sign of hope for others. You can evolve fast if you have some Bloomberg and some people who know what to do and have the crisis may help, as our friend from wearing the American banner mentioned, etc. But it's very interesting New York. Now, moving faster, about the metrics. About the metrics around page 80. I think São Paulo, the USP in particular, is very behind financing its startups. For instance, the Federal University of Minas Gerais is much more advanced. They have a venture capital, a venture fund from themselves, Fundepar, through the foundation. Here we have been desperately trying since they asked me to participate in the regulation of the new rules of the university for technology transfer, etc., to open a space to discuss how we can help not only technology transfer, promote technology transfer, but help the new entrepreneurs. So I think I think it is not good here. Also, the issue of innovation habitats or whatever. We had the recent disaster where Fabio indirectly knows about it at least, because we had, after many years of effort, we had the beginning of a tech park near the Cidade Universitária in Jaguaré. It was dedicated in July 2014 by the state governor, but unfortunately a year later, 2 years later, really last year, because of reasons that are beyond my comprehension, which seem to be associated with the idea of saving rent for the state, the sign Parque Tecnológico was deleted, and now you have just bureaucratic offices there in there. So I think
it is very sad on one point, but the ecosystem has its ways. So if you cross Ponte do Jaguaré, the Jaguaré Bridge, and you go to the Avenue Telos Filho, which connects Jaguaré Bridge to Ceasa, you see a complex of buildings, and if you go there, you'll find, I find a lot of students, so they went there. So if what should be done is not done, they know the benefits of being where they should be, and they're finding a way, kind of like an organism, like to substitute something which would be the official by something informal. So that is it. Okay, I'm going faster now. Yes. I think, again, in your metrics, when you put, maybe that's not easy, an alternative easy solution, when you put number of incubators, number of things, I don't know, because you may have one brilliant incubator, and just to mention the incubator in Florianopolis, Celta, which is fantastic. It has probably the companies that were graduated from Celta, they have an income, just to mention, 8 billion reais a year, one incubator. And you can have sometimes 5, 6, 7 incubators, which are beautiful, but kind of very, let's say, less productive. So I don't know if it's more or less like, it reminds me like more or less number of papers. Is the number of papers enough to evaluate the quality of research produced by a university? I know that it's not easy to find a way of measuring quality, but just, I think it's my job to tell you that take care, because sometimes just having cold numbers may not be exactly enough. Now, one specific question is, I might not have understood, but you have 3 tables where you put the level of maturity of your 3 ecosystems. Table 4.1, table 5.6, and table 5.7. Now, in table 4.1, you put Tel Aviv as M3. And
Yes.
at 5.6 and 5.7, you put Tel Aviv, sorry, I said the opposite. In 4.1, you put Tel Aviv as M4, in 5.7 as M4, and 5.6 as M3. So you have a different evaluation. Can you
Yes. So maybe there's a mistake. During our research, the first model, the first version of the model that we published, in fact, Tel Aviv was in M3.
Yeah.
And then after iterations in the workshops and refining the model, changing the scales, then Tel Aviv felt on the 4th level.
But maybe you should adjust it here, or is it correct like the way it is? Are you presenting this as the first?
Yeah, we present the table of the first version, and then maybe I could make it more clear.
Because,
yes.
I couldn't. I looked twice and couldn't see.
Yes.
Now, getting to the end, I agree totally with what Marcelo said. And for future studies, Florianopolis and Recife would be very interesting, because also you have a more controlled space, and São Paulo is a confusion, and I think you can do it. And finally, 2 general questions that I usually make at any committee, which are the following. Okay, after you finish now, first question,
what would be the surprises that you had during your research? What did you find out that you didn't expect? That's the first question.
I think I had two big surprises. The first one is New York. So New York for me was a big surprise. I didn't know that New York was as evolved as it is when I get there. So, and in fact, it wasn't 10 years ago. And this was really a surprise. And my impression is that soon New York will surpass Silicon Valley in terms of startup generations and exits and growth, all these things. So this was impressive. And the other thing that surprised me was that even if Sao Paulo is still on level 2 of maturity, I think this ecosystem has a lot of, not only this ecosystem, but also other cities in Brazil, like Florianópolis, as you mentioned, or Belo Horizonte. We have a lot of potential to get there, to really generate thousands of companies with a lot of innovation. We have very talented people. Unfortunately, we lose a lot of talent for these other ecosystems, for Silicon Valley, for New York. So if we had a way to keep talent here, I think we would really evolve a lot faster. And so for me, it was a surprise to see that Sao Paulo has a pretty engaged community, yeah, as you say, chaotic, because the city is chaotic, and compared to, for example, Belo Horizonte, where people are much more engaged and connected, so we miss some connections, but we have market, we have financing, we have very talented people, we have the university, and not only the University of São Paulo, but other institutions like INSPER and FIAP, Mackenzie, all the PUC, all these institutions that are not close. Yeah. So, and Google decided to open campus here in São Paulo, and I've heard that this is the most successful campus in all the world in terms of people coming. So the number of people coming here is, I've heard about 5 or 6 times all other campus in the world, and so we can see that there's a latent need for that. So people want to create things, to innovate, to make startups. So people are really willing to do things here. They just need infrastructure researchers because they are able to do that.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, if you would make the clock go back and you would begin your dissertation again, what? Yeah. What would you do very different from what you did?
Yeah, I'm not a kind of people that regret all the things that I do. Yeah, I think what I would do different.
Okay, they do the same, it's no problem.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I could. I wasn't able to do it any kind of different than what I did because actually, as you mentioned, I was running a company at the same time that I was doing the PhD. So I could say, I would dedicate more time for that, or I would do that thing or that. Well, if I dedicated more time to the PhD, for sure I wouldn't be able to run a company, and the opposite is the same. So yeah, I had to manage how to do. I'm proud of what I did. I'm sure I could do better if I had more time, if I had more dedication. But at the same time, life is just a matter of choosing things. So this is the way I choose to do things. So I think it's good enough.
It's okay, it's the same question, not a new question, but like this, for instance, would you choose 2 cities instead of 3? Would you choose a different city? Would you choose not to use Crunchbase? Would you, exactly because you had little time, what would you suggest to somebody who has little time in the future to do in order to...
Yeah, I would like, one thing that I noticed just in the end of the research, just 6 months ago, that I had the opportunity to go to China. And one thing, this was a big surprise, great surprise, and I couldn't include it in anything because I didn't have enough time. But I would choose something in the Asia or this East Europe, somewhere far away from because usually when we think about role models here, we Brazilians, we look only up, we don't look left or right. And we have something amazing happening in the other part of the world. And definitely I would have choose to stay some time in maybe Beijing or Shanghai. It would be very difficult, but yeah, it's amazing what's happening there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Again, very nice observations. We made notes, and I think we will be able to incorporate some of these things into the final version of the thesis. And Ari was the one that, during the qualifying exam, gave the idea of developing a maturity model. So it was a big contribution to the thesis, and we thank you very much for that. So I don't have any question because I already asked 1 million questions in the last 5 years or more, Daniel. And so nothing else to do except that it was a great pleasure, and I learned together with Daniel a lot in this past 5 years in this process. It was very pleasant, sometimes it was difficult also, but I always was optimistic that something very nice would come out of it, and now I'm very happy to see the final result. And if he's approved, we'll celebrate a lot. If he's not, we'll drink a lot. Either way. So it was a great pleasure for me. We have time for a question or comment from the audience. Anyone? No? Mona? No? Okay.
I drink a lot anyway.
I don't know, yeah, maybe. Mona there is the one that did the master's thesis on the São Paulo ecosystem, so part of her work is incorporated here.
One thing that I wanted to that is my will is that this group of research continue. I hope we have other students in the university in computer science that maybe can get all these points that we couldn't finish, we couldn't go further, because I think this research has a long run and we have a lot of work to do after that. It's not the end, it's just the beginning.
Okay, so now the thesis committee will go out for a few minutes, so we'll debate and come to a final decision. And you may stay here a few minutes, we'll go out and come back.
Do you want to call?
Yes, so we need to call Xiao. You have Wi. What you're using the Wi-Fi?
It's
Or-
connected.
No, but you outside it will work.
I believe yes. Wi-Fi, mas se não tivesse, pode usar.
Ok.
Tá.
Hi, Excel. Hello. Can you hear me? Thank you. So now So now we are leaving the thesis committee.
the final version, things like citing bibliographic references in a few places and a lot of other things that we wrote down. So we'll send you these remarks, and all of the members consider that you deserve the title of the doctoral title. You can be so everybody approved. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And yeah, the thesis will be available online for those who weren't here. And thanks for the committee for coming. And I hope we can continue working together in other projects. It will be a pleasure to have you together. Thank you.
Daniel.
Dr. Daniel!
Tem que atualizar meu LinkedIn agora. Pronto, sócio, agora eu tô todo seu. Aumento pro Labore agora.
Ah, é?
Quero aumento pro Labore.
Vai continuar sendo um ser do ecossistema.
Tirar uma foto de você,
Foto. Foto. Tchau, pessoal.
Foto, vou tirar uma foto.
Foto. Pegaram o chocolatinho nessa? Pegaram o chocolatinho nessa?